everybody, I am Liz, and today I am here to talk about The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Attier. I'm going to start off with a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't yet read it, you won't be spoiled. You can watch this. I'll let you know when I get to the spoilery discussion part at the end of this video when you need to, hit the road. Anyway, so if you haven't quite heard what The Wrath and the Dawn is about, it is a retelling of 1001 Nights. 1001 Nights takes place where there is a king that takes a new bride every day because his bride winds up dead by dawn. And his next bride decides that she wants to outwit and outsmart him by staying alive to the next day by telling him a story that ends on a cliffhanger and just really piquing the king's interest to keep her alive. And The Wrath and the Dawn definitely starts out that way. We have our main character named Scheherazade, also called Shazi as her nickname, and she has volunteered to marry this murderous king in order to seek revenge on him for killing her best friend Shiva. The book starts out on their wedding day and the plot ensues and drives forward as Scheherazade tries to outwit and outsmart Khalid, this ruler of Khorasan. And let's just say this is particularly a romance novel, so if you are not a fan of a redemption arc and a girl falling in love with somebody she hates, this book may not be for you. And I will say there is a love triangle, so again, if love triangles are not for you, this may not be a story for you. As for my review, I have to say that the writing style definitely drew me in, as it drew in a majority of the booktuber review videos I have watched. Renee Attier has a fantastic writing structure and sentence flow. I felt like I was right there in the story, picturing and imagining all of these Arabic type themes, as she even interweaves Arabic words into the story, and so it feels very, very immersive. Her writing was very eloquent and flowy, and some people thought it was too flowery, but I absolutely thought it was on par for me, and so I very much so enjoyed it. The plot itself definitely gripped me and made me want to keep reading, as I wanted to find out more about the king of Khorasan, Khalid, and also how Shazi was going to seek her revenge on him. My one negative aspect of the plot is I would have preferred a lot more interaction or flashback scenes between Scheherazade and her best friend Shiva, as I would have liked to understand Scheherazade's motivations for wanting to kill Khalid a lot more than we were actually told in the story. There is also some issues I have with Scheherazade and Khalid themselves in the plot that is a little spoilery, and also how quickly Scheherazade actually falls for Khalid. It felt very rapid and fast-paced, not as much as some YA stories I have read, but it still seemed pretty quick. I know that she was battling with herself and her feelings and her attractions all the way up until about halfway through the book. As for the characters, I really loved learning more about them. We have a slew of so many characters. Even though the story focuses on Scheherazade and Khalid, you have a lot of other people. We have a character named Jalal, who is Khalid's cousin and also somewhat second in command of his armed forces, and I just absolutely love Jalal. He reminds me a lot of Janko from the study series by Maria V. Snyder. He's very much a comic relief, but he also is very powerful and smart and witty, and I just really loved his banter. I also really liked Despina. She is Scheherazade's handmaiden, and she's just, again, she's also very witty. She calls out Scheherazade when she's acting like a brat or when she's not exactly being very smart or understanding of her place within this castle. And then we have Scheherazade's father, called Jahangir, and he was pretty interesting to find out his history and then how he grows as a character and who he becomes. And then we have a character called Tariq, who is Shahrazad's first love and one of her really good childhood friends. Renee Ahdieh definitely writes him as an irritable character, and I really didn't like how he seemed like a very typical like YA type boy, where he's very bold and cocky and controlling, he's jealous, and it just seems like he cares more about himself and his agenda than he actually cares for Shahrazad and everybody else that he's interacting to in the story. Then of course I have to talk about Shahrazad herself, as she is the main character. She's definitely very fierce and bold, and as she knows that she is on death's door, she's very confident and she just doesn't really care what she says. She kind of wants to see what she can get away with saying, especially to Khalid himself. I thought it was very refreshing just how blunt she is and how passionate she is. And she's definitely a very strong character that can take care of herself. And then obviously I can't not talk about Khalid. He's the king. He is portrayed as this monster to the citizens of Khorasan, but there's a lot more that meets his eye. He definitely has his own motivations and secrets that eventually you find out about throughout the story. One thing I particularly liked is the fact that when Shahrazad first meets Khalid, she is very hateful and spiteful towards him. She doesn't really comment on his attractiveness or anything like that until they've been together for a few days, which was refreshing for me. I liked that it was a more subtle transition to her attraction. There is a magic system, as this is partially fantasy, so if you do like a magic system that's in place, but it doesn't really describe the magic system and it just like lets you experience it as it is, you would definitely enjoy this. Some people want more of the magic system, and I definitely get a hint that in the sequel it will be in there and be definitely more exposed, more talked about, and will give you more of a hint of what this magic system is. I definitely really enjoyed the little hints of magic and the shout outs and Easter eggs to the original 1001 Nights. So all in all, I really enjoyed the wording, the sentence structure, the flow of the story. I loved the plot, and I definitely enjoyed the characters, and I want to learn more about them, so I'm definitely picking up the sequel, The Rose and the Dagger, as soon as possible. My overall negatives of the story is this forced love triangle that was just really unnecessary, and I really wanted to learn more about Shahrazad and her best friend Shiva, and I really hope that the sequel will do that for me. Now we're going to get into the spoilery discussion section, where I have a big question for those of you who have read the story. So if you have yet to read it, I'm gonna say so long, goodbye. Thank you guys. Come back when you've actually read the story. So the first thing I definitely need to talk about, which didn't bother me until I slept on it and woke up the next day. This entails Shahrazad and Khalid's first night together. Khalid comes into her room and sleeps with her. It's, you know, a wedding rite in historical times. I know definitely in European historical culture, they were supposed to consummate the marriage. And so reading that first line for those first two nights, I wasn't exactly bothered, and I understood it's definitely very rapey because obviously Shahrazad is not a willing participant in this. However, most brides in that ancient European king-queen culture were the same way. The thing that bothered me was approximately 25 to 30% of the way into the book, Despina tells Shahrazad that Khalid only went into her room. She was the only bride that he had slept with out of all other 72 brides apart from his first wife. But it holds this very scary, heebie-jeebie realization to me that why did Khalid go into her room and essentially rape her on their first 2 nights together? Because she didn't want it, and he didn't do it with any of his other brides. And it could be the possibility that Renee Ahdieh was trying to make me feel better for him going into her room without that consent going on, but it makes me feel so much worse. And so I just didn't approve of that, and that only single plot device is my main reason for wanting to completely just dismantle my approval ratings of the story itself. And it really makes me sit on the fence, because trying to downplay this rape type scene, especially because in the book itself it talks about her disassociating her from herself and distancing herself from the actual scene that is happening. It is very frightening, and I'm also very worried that most of the reviews I actually watched online did not talk about that at all. I also really want to talk about Scheherazad's father, Jahangir, and how he is playing with magic in order to get stronger. And the fact that even though he's getting these new powers, it doesn't mean that he's controlling them, as he completely decimated that city at the end of the book. And I really feel like he's becoming this power-hungry villain, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next book and how Scheherazade is going to react to how her father is behaving. The last thing I want to talk about is Musa Effendi's role in the story and how he is this fire mage and who he is, and being Khalid's mother's teacher and just what he represents in the story. I really want to learn more about him, and I really hope that he is in the second book. And I'm going to talk about the magic carpet that he gives to Scheherazade, because I freaking love it. And I love that Shazi has some type of magical presence about herself, and I really want to know more. And I really just want to see if Musa Effendi is going to teach Scheherazade, maybe to see if she can become more powerful in order to tackle on the problems with her father and her father's newfound power. So if you stuck around for my spoilery bit discussion, thank you so much. And I hope you stick around by doing the liking and the subscribing, and I really hope to see your guys' faces next time. And please, please comment down below, because I really need to talk about this book. So until next time, goodbye!